welcome back to Everyone is Addicted. Today's guest is Philip, and he has graciously come on to share his story about how addiction has affected him in his life. So I'm going to let him take it away and tell us his story.
Hey guys, how are y'all, guys and girls? My name is Philip, and I am from Fort Worth, Texas. And a little bit of brief history about myself is I was raised in both a home that had a mother and a father, but my father did have a little bit of alcoholism and drug addiction in his life. Seen it when I was kind of growing up, um, mainly with weed and a little bit of other stuff, but he worked hard. He made sure everything was financially taken care of. Everyone has their hiccups and their complaints, but I don't blame my lifestyle and my addiction on my parents, just for the simple fact that I'm my own man and I make my own decisions and I lay with that responsibility over my head.
I
Uh,
100% agree. I 100% agree. I'm an adult. I made my choices just like they made theirs.
yeah, I got into the addiction when I was around 13 to 14 years old, started smoking weed, drinking, of course, very, here and there, partied here and there. At the age of 15, I met a woman and we became parents. So went home to my dad and was like, hey, you're going to be a grandpa. And just know that I'm like 15 years old and I think I know
That's
everything.
that's so
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
I don't know how you did that.
Man, so went home and he said, well, I guess you're going to marry her. So we got married at the age of 16. I was 16 years old and we got married. Her parents, they bent over backwards and tried to give us the world. Of course, I was young, I was hard headed. My parents tried to help us out, give us places to stay. But again, I thought I knew everything. And I guess when you're 15, I guess you think you do. Uh, I started with the bright idea that I could start selling drugs to provide for my family. That was my what we call a permission statement. Everything in life that you do, for my belief, is you have to have a permission statement. You have to have a reason why you want to do something, or you're not going to do it. So my permission statement, what I told myself was that I was going to sell drugs so I can take care of my family, and that makes me a good guy. That makes me a good person. Um, when in reality, that was the polar opposite of what a good person was. If anyone's ever been involved in addiction, they understand that whenever you start seeing drugs and you're around the people, it's a whole new lifestyle. It's a whole new atmosphere. The people that you surround yourself with that are constantly in your life, in your face, are constantly getting high, and they're promoting all of the positive things that come along with it. The euphoria of just kind of life and how all your problems go away. Um, so I started getting high, and then that led me to even more troubles. Um, I remember one part of my life when I had promised my wife at the time that I was going to stop everything, getting high, selling drugs, pretty much everything. And I didn't. I actually got a fake shirt at Target and said I was working for Target when I was going and selling drugs at night.
Hey,
Um,
that's smart. You must have been a good
yeah,
drug dealer if you pulled that one off. That's smart.
yeah. So yeah, I pulled that off, and until I was calling her to come bomb me out of jail. So yeah, I got my first conviction at the age of 18 years old, delivery of a controlled substance and a burglary habitation because I had a bunch of stolen materials, stolen merchandise on me. Um, I went through a program called the Safe P, which is a substance abuse punishment facility. I'm here in Texas, and the first thing they try to do is they put you on probation. After you fail your UAs, if you're in that lifestyle and their addiction, then they try to send you to rehabs. They start out at like a 20-day Pine Street, then they move you up to a Safe P, which is the substance abuse punishment facility. And I stayed there for about 8 months. Lived there for about 8 months. It's still ran by TDC, so you still have the prison outfits. You still eat the prison food. You still have the prison TDC number. So it's still run by the prison, but it's just focused on rehabilitation and drugs.
All
Uh,
prisons should really be like that, honestly, not just one specific program. I think all prisons should be focused on rehabilitation. It's not, but it should
no, not
be.
at all, not at all. So I probably have about 35 hours of podcast I can tell you about just about prison, just about Texas prisons and why
Oh,
you
I
should not go.
studied I studied prisons of the world, and Texas is supposed to be one of the hardest places to go to prison. So I could only imagine, just from learning that in college just 20 years ago, that it is not a nice place to go to prison. You do not want to go to prison in Texas. No.
There's 156 prisons in Texas, and the prison that I was stationed at the time, compared to my home, was about 13 hours away. So isolated from all of my family and my friends, isolated from my kids. You can just imagine going in a car ride for 13 hours from Fort Worth, Texas to El Paso. Your family's not going to make that drive every
No.
weekend.
No.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I get out of Safe P, and I have hopes of doing good, and things are looking right. And I mess up, and I get back into the drug game, the dope game. I want some fast money. I want the attention of all the people. So I started back in selling drugs and using drugs, and got another violation. And this time I went to TDC. I went to Middleton and Abilene, Sanchez in El Paso, Texas. I went to uh, Gurney. I went to Cleveland unit, uh, Johnson unit. Let me see. I was at Pallage, Beetle 2. So I was kind of getting moved around a lot because at this point in my life, I thought that gang banging, drug activity, that was kind of like the thing to do, the life I wanted, the life I chose. That was what it was.
You're also still so young at this point, too, right? So it's not like your
Yeah,
brain's fully developed. So for you, it's kind of like you got into it so early that it's just kind of like what you thought life was supposed to be like, almost, you know? Not necessarily even your fault because you're so young and you have to provide. And how else are you going to provide? That's the only way you know. And you know that it's easy, fast money where you can live comfortably opposed to working at Walmart and struggling your ass off, right?
yeah, yeah. Now, at that time, I'm probably about 22, 23 years old when I get out of prison that time. Um, and I go in and out of prison for about 4 to 5 years. And at the age of 28, I decide that I'm done with it. I'm done with prison. I'm done with it all. I want a fresh start with my life. I want to do it right. Um, and then I do it right for about 6 years. Everything was going great. I had met a new woman. We have my son, which is he's in the living room there. Um, and this is kind of like important for everybody who's in recovery, is the fact that when you think that you have it under control, you don't. So I was sober for about 6 years, and my son's mom was introduced into pills, and she become alcohol dependent and on hydrocodone, Xanax, all those type of pills. Um, when I found out, it was like the permission statement all over again. The things in my head told me that you've been sober this long, you can handle it. You're good. You're good.
I
Like,
thought that too, and no, I wasn't.
yeah. And so I ended up relapsing. At the time, I was buying my home. That home was, of course, foreclosed on. My son was taken away from me. Um, at this point in time, like it's just all the trust and all the love and all of the support I had from my family was just like washed away. And within a 6 month span, I literally went from having a great job, a home that I paid for, my car, two cars, like the American dream. And it took 6 months and I was back behind bars. And I had completed I had completed parole. So I didn't have a parole hold. I just had messed everything up so fast and so quick that it just engulfed me. And just it I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was away from my son, and then the uh, I don't know how to explain it really, but it's like whenever you're so mad at yourself and you know better, you just kind of like you have that effort attitude, and you're like, you know what, it don't even matter. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of times inside addiction, that effort attitude is what gets us. It's because we don't.
It's exactly what gets us. It's like when like just the pressure just builds to such a degree. Like when I started doing pills was after my dad died. I lost my childhood home. My aunt stole $120,000 from me. I wasn't allowed to speak at my dad's funeral. My spouse at the time was injecting drugs, and the CAS had been called. So I can handle life, and I just said, same thing. Well, screw
Effort.
it, you know? And
Effort.
let's just be numb, you know what I mean? Because it's better than being not numb. I know
I re-
exactly what you mean.
like every one of my relapses and every one of things that got me back into my addiction was all preventable. There's a thing called people, places, and things, and you have to change every single one of them. Not just one, not just two,
Oh,
but every one of them. If you change the people, the places, and your things in your life, so what do I mean by that, right? So you have what they call relapse triggers, right? So I remember one time I was walking into an Ace check cashing, and as I walked into the Ace check cashing, the floor sealer that they used reminded me of a chemical that I used when I used to cook dope. And it instantly, that quick, made me have all these fantasies and thoughts and intrusions, and just it took me back to a place that I didn't want to be. And it literally happened within seconds. No one around, just a smell. It was so bad that I had to leave the store because just the smell of it had triggered me to relapse. So you have to understand as an addict, what are your relapse triggers? Like, what are the things that make you want to go get high, want to say F it? Uh, what makes you want to be around people? One of my biggest relapse triggers are game rooms. I love to gamble, but game rooms are a relapse trigger for me because the only people that are in there are people who continue to get high or in that lifestyle, and plus they're legal. And so the more, it's like the saying where they say, if you hang out in a barber shop, eventually you're going to get a haircut.
get a haircut. Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
going out one night saying I wasn't going to do cocaine, and my ex said that exact same thing to me. And guess what I ended up doing? Cocaine.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's a true statement.
if you show me the 5 people that you hang out with, I'm going to show you who you are, because those people that you surround yourself, those places you surround yourself, they build your character. And in life, we think that we always think that we're good people, but we never take a step back and look at our actions. And you can even go a step further and watch your thoughts, because there's a proverb that says, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. And then watch your habits, they become your character. So if we continuously think what life would be like if we got high, then as the tape plays out, we're going to go get high because we have engulfed our thoughts in that process. Um, and again, like, I highly recommend people to like go out and research relapse triggers and what they mean and how they can identify them to themselves, because everyone has different relapse triggers. There's not like a set stone, uh, or this one is a universal, it fits everyone. It's like
It's
things like,
all to who
yeah,
it's all unique to whoever you are, because everybody's addiction is unique to whoever you are, and the reasons for the addiction are unique to whoever you are. So it's not like for me, a check cashing place actually would make me not want to use, because it would remind me of the days of when we used to go there to get loans to buy pills. So it's opposite of a relapse trigger for me. It's a reminder of not to use, because I don't want to be using these places all the time and stuff like that. So like it is really is unique to whoever you are, because like for me, when you were saying that, I was thinking I am the opposite, because those places make me not want to use, because it reminds me of being there with my daughter trying to get a loan on my baby bonus just so that I could buy drugs. Like it's just awful. Like I hate myself for it, And like I can't sit in my thoughts of hating myself, because that's negative self-talk, which again leads to relapse and relapse triggers. But it is something that I am regretful about and I can't take it back. So I just have to accept and not do it again. So,
yeah,
like
like
I said,
can you like name something on like a personal level that makes you have that euphoria, that the euphoria feeling in your mind? Like what is something personal to you that it reminds you of the positive aspects of your addiction?
you mean like what would be a trigger for me to want to use?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, so all right, for alcohol, it's when I just want to say fuck it. And I have had too much of being overwhelmed. And I can't cope anymore. And I don't want to cope anymore. And I don't want to deal with life anymore. So for me, I want to drink when my life is just a little like is gets difficult. And for me with opiates, it's when other people talk about getting a prescription for an oxy 80, and I think about how good it felt to do the oxy 80. So if anybody starts talking about oxy and especially oxy 80s, then all of a sudden I want to use, because I remember that euphoria, that feeling that I really enjoyed, like you said, right? So that is a trigger for me, is when other people talk about using certain types of drugs that I liked using. So that's a big one for me, is if somebody just like in passing in a conversation says like, "Oh yeah, I've got to go to the pharmacy and pick up my prescription for oxy 80s." I would be like, salivating just thinking about what it
Yeah,
felt like back then. So that
yeah,
that one is a big one definitely for me. And like I said, for me with drinking, it's my way of coping because I don't have like huge coping, like I didn't have huge coping mechanisms, and even now I still, I'm human, right? So I get overwhelmed, and then that's what triggers me with alcohol is being overwhelmed. With pills, it's just my sister-in-law still uses oxy. So this is why I know this is a huge trigger for me because she'll talk
you
to me about
experienced.
it.
Yeah.
She'll talk to me about it, and she's gotten off, like she just keeps relapsing back onto them, right? But every time she's talking to me about a relapse, I'm thinking about, oh, it would feel good though, but I know better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So like that, like that's what I mean by it's a trigger just to listen to other people talk about using because I know I can't, right? I can't
Well,
anyways.
so
I take Suboxone.
yeah. So there's a behavior science, right? Behavior science tells us that everything has a life cycle. So if every life cycle starts an activating event, right? So what happens is I'm like use your example for your if you don't mind, use you as an example. So your sister-in-law, she comes to you and says, I relapse and I'm on oxy 80s, right? That's your activating event. That's your trigger, right? So what happens is you're being flushed with thoughts, you're being flushed with feelings, you're being flushed with previous experiences, and it's kind of going in a circle. And you have to identify at what point that this is a relapse trigger for me. And if you can stop it before you actually complete the cycle of relapse, then you have made it another day. And then we all say that, it's one day at a time.
Mm.
But behavior sciences and life cycles, when it comes to any kind of event in your life, and this could be positive as well, like it doesn't have to be negative. So I give you an example, right? So um, when I go to work. So I'm a bartender, wait tables, and on Friday
I
morning,
did that
yeah,
20 years. The only reason I don't do it now is because I can't work late at night because of the kids, right? But that is my industry. Even as an
yeah,
alcoholic, I was sober and I could still sell booze. I didn't care after a while, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how I
I
am.
get that.
But
That's my jam right there. So when he said bartender, I'm like, wow, that's my
yeah,
industry.
yeah.
Sorry.
I've been doing it for 5 years now, and like it's like you even take like a life event like that. It's like you know that you want to make money, you know that you have bills due, and so what do is your life cycle is I get up, I go to work, I have those feelings of regret, of anger, of sleepiness. Maybe you're tired, you don't want to go to work, but you play the tape all the way through. You say, okay, the event is I get paid, and so in your mind, as bad as you not want to go to work because you rather go in bed or you rather go to see your son's soccer game or football game, you have to complete the life cycle on a positive note and still go to work. And we do this subconsciously millions of times a day. And it's just a thought pattern, but the thought pattern has a life cycle. And we have to identify those thoughts. And once we identify those thoughts, we can say, okay, every time I think about this, it makes me want to get high. Right? Every time I get angry, it makes me want to get drunk. Well, anger is a secondary emotion. So if anger is a secondary emotion, what's the first emotion that's causing me to be angry? Okay, well, I felt prideful that they asked him to work the extra shift and not me. I thought I was more equipped for it. So now you're dealing with pride. Okay, so now that I'm prideful, so now next time I have a feeling of pridefulness, instead of getting angry and continuous in that life cycle, I stop there and I contemplate on why I feel that way. Why do I feel the resentment? Why do I feel the pride?
To
Did I
the
work
root.
extra hard? Yeah, and you get to the root of the problem. And because you have to remember, even like the worst mistakes we make in life, we have a reason for making them. They're not just something that we do. They're not just accidents. They have a benefit to us, and we have to identify what did we think at that moment it would benefit us. Was it the fact that we feel numb? Was it the fact that we are continue to have social, like be socially accepted? Was it financial security? Like, what were the reasons behind it? And you have to dig into it, and you have to
Mm.
like identify why I felt this way, and then identify why you felt that way about those feelings. You
I
know?
call it shadow work, but I get what you're saying with the cycling thing. It like you have to break it down and then break it down some more and then break it down some more to get to the root cause of why you feel that way. And that could go all the way back to when you were little. And you have to be able to look yourself in the eye and truthfully look yourself in the eye. Otherwise, it'll never work. But
Yeah,
I, because if you can't truthfully look at yourself and truthfully take the ego out of it and be like, you know what, I did this, and yes, I'm not happy about it, but let's dig into why I did it, and we'll figure it out so that I don't ever do it again. And that's what I mean by work with shadow work. That's what that is, and it's similar to like what you're saying, right? It's just getting to the root of why you do it so that you don't do it again. But you can't have ego in the way, because if you have your ego in the way, you're never going to truly see yourself eye to eye. You know what I mean?
exactly.
You're
Yeah.
only going to see yourself. Like I have this crystal piece. It's uncut selenite, and it's called the mirror. And I've always, just being an addict, loved that fact of it's in the mirror. Like looking yourself in the mirror and really seeing yourself for who you are, even with the bad and the good. Still seeing yourself and really being able to not hate yourself anymore because you can see yourself and you can understand yourself. And knowing that the choices you made them, but they don't need to be baggage that follows behind you everywhere you go. You just have
Yeah.
to
And
accept it.
I think that's where like the fourth step, making amends, when you can. If anybody's ever heard of the 12-step program, but the fourth step is taking a moral inventory of what you've done and being able to make amends for those. It's the third and fourth step. And you have to, like, there's some things in life that you do in life that, like, if you were to rehash those or bring it up or go to apologize, you'd cause more harm than good. And so those are the type of things that you just ask you and your higher power, for forgiveness and amends. It's because there's no sense of making someone rehash or suffer again for your mistakes. And
That's what they say if you have a good sponsor with step 5, that you only apologize to people that you're not going to hurt.
yeah, yeah, and that's the key is you have to, but you have to figure those out. Now, like, can I take a minute to talk to the loved ones of people who suffered an addiction? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So, like, if you have a loved one that is suffering from addiction, or someone that is in the life cycle of being in prison, out of prison, in jail, out of jail, homeless, whatever the situation may be, I want you to take a moment and just remind yourself that it is not your fault, and that there's nothing you could do to make that person have or make the right decisions. The people that make these decisions, whether it be man or woman, son or daughter, they make those decisions because that is the decision they made in their own mind. There's nothing you could have done except for handcuff them to the bed, uh, that would have worked. And I want you guys
Maybe
to
not
stop being,
even. They maybe
yeah,
chewed their arm
not
off
even,
in my situation.
yeah. And I want you to stop blaming yourself, and I want you to look for solutions. Some of the solutions that you can do to care for an addict is be there emotionally and mentally, and sparingly financially, because addicts are manipulative. They will take advantage of you and they will tell you what you want to hear when you want to hear it to get what they want. They don't mean nothing by it. They don't mean to hurt you. But what they do is they need to feed their addiction. And it's cutting, baffling, and powerful. And I want you to, if keep this in mind, if someone is just getting out of prison or someone's just getting out of rehab, you have to step back and see the actions they make. Who are they surrounding themselves around? Do they immediately come home and see their family and crave the family support of the loved ones? Or are they back at the dope house or the game room or the bar looking for their support and love? Because no matter which way they go, they're going to find it.
Hmm.
And you got to be careful what you're looking for. Um, and so I highly encourage you, if you're dealing with a situation like this, to take a man's word by his actions, or a woman by their actions, not by what they say, because they'll promise you the moon and then spit
Hmm.
in your face.
Yes,
Um,
they will.
yeah,
That's a
been there,
good
done that.
analogy for that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, been there, done that. But yeah, so I can kind of, I just wanted to get that out there because that was kind of on my heart. I think I, bel I believe in God, and so my higher power is telling me that there is going to be someone listening in the future that has someone in their addiction, and that one's for you. And I understand you're lost and you're confused and you don't know what to do, um, but continue to live your life and love at afar, and be there to support them, be there for them mentally, emotionally, and maybe sometimes it's just a couch to sleep on. But be there where you can, but don't put yourself out too much, because the person that you're looking at when he's in his addiction is not the same person that you know. They're a different person. It's a different mindset. It's a different breed. But yeah, I just that was on my heart to say. But a little bit more about myself. I finally got out of prison 6 years ago, 2019, 2020. So 5 years ago is when I finally got out of prison. I did a 10-year sentence. I got 7 more months left on parole in the state of Texas. I'm on the lowest supervision of parole. I report once every 6 months. Um, still do my UA, still pay my fees and stuff, but I'm on the lowest supervision as possible. I've been at the same job, which is a funny story because I'm gonna share this with you real quick. So I was getting out of prison and I was sleeping on my mom and dad's floor in a blow up mattress in a little makeshift tent. And I was walking home one afternoon and I was taking the bus and I was walking from the bus station to my mom's house and I was getting frustrated and I can see all the tell signs of relapse triggers and the thoughts. And I looked up and I said, God, I just need a job. That's all I need. I just need a job. Will you please give me a job? It can be anywhere. And so I walked about 3 blocks to my mama's house, and I get there and I'm on the front porch talking to my mama. She's asking me, how my day was and what happened, and I'm lighting her about a day, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call, and I got an interview, and then about 15 minutes later I get another phone call, and I got another interview. So the people at Winco, they want me up there that afternoon to or the next afternoon to do an interview, and so I'm up there, and within that 12-hour period, I had 2 jobs working opposite schedules, and it was just a huge blessing. And then a few days later, I get a third job on parole working for the U.S. government, right?
That's awesome.
So yeah, I started working for the Census Bureau, going door to door, and it was just one of those things in my life. It was just a turning point, and it was a decision, a conscious decision I made to do the right thing and pray instead of give up. And I think that if you believe in multi universes, I think there's a multi universe where that day I went and got high and never and never went home. Like.
Well, could have
But I've been,
been, could have went two ways. You could have
yeah,
went in and overdosed, or you could have
yeah,
went and did what you did and got hired three times. So
yeah,
like
yeah. And I've
I
been at
think
that
God
same.
provides. If you ask and you truly in your heart are asking for the right reasons, God will provide you with what you need. I've experienced like my dad um was in a coma and they told me he would never get better. I prayed, I said Psalms 23, I probably 1,000 times. And then they told me to pull the plug on him, and I refused to do it because I believed that he would be okay. And I would pray that little place where you kneel for Catholic people to pray
Yeah,
on, it faced his bedroom. And I would sit there and pray. And I had been praying. And then the doctor comes in and says, "Oh, he's doing better." And I just dropped to my knees crying, like, God gave me a
nice.
miracle because, like I said, I believe if it's true in your heart, that God will provide you with what you need. If it's not something like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, God's gonna give me a Bentley. Do you know what I mean? But
Well,
if it's a
and that's
real thing,
yeah, and that's the thing. People get mixed up a lot of times. People get the needs and wants. You need a place to, you need shelter, but you don't need a mansion. I mean, you need shelter, but you want a mansion. You need transportation, but you have a city bus. Like that's the needs versus wants. And a lot of times, like I remember there was times in my addiction where I prayed to God that he'd take me out of my addiction. And about a few days later, I'm in jail. I mean, he took me out of my addiction. You know what I mean? But it's
well,
all about perception and how you look at it.
I actually had my addictions doctor do something with me where it was like a chart about wants and needs and the difference, and she wanted me
Mm-hmm.
to go like through it and like really analyze it to help me analyze that exactly what you said. Like there's a bus, if there's things that you don't need, you just want, right?
Yeah.
And it really helped me with a lot of issues with maybe being envious of other people, or like because I'm just getting sober. I'm in my 30s, and I thought I would have accomplished so much more when I was like in my childhood. So I'm hating on myself. So she did that to help me kind of understand that no, you just so that I wouldn't get into that mindset. It was a tool that she gave me to understand. But I before I end our segment, would you like to promote something that you do
Yeah.
as well
Yes.
as the passion project?
Yeah. So kind of wrap things up on my kind of like life story. I got out of prison about 5 years ago. I've been at the same job, waiting tables, taking care of my family. I bought my house. I'm buying my house now. I own my car. I'm financially secure and stable. Um, I have a passion for finance and a passion for blockchain. So I started an online educational business where I teach people about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. So a lot of people heard of the big dogs, the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, things like that. But I have a podcast that's kind of more focused on the builder side of it, on the applications that are being built, which they like to call DApps, decentralized applications. And so I do a lot of interviews with builders in the spaces, a lot of explaining about how it works, why it works, what you can do with it, how it can be profitable you, how you can send money back and forth, how you can, use the social media apps, which is like Passage or rent out cloud computer, like with Akash, things like that. But yeah, I also do a monthly workshop once a month. The first Sunday of every month, I rented a building at Create Fort Worth off of Bryan Street, Bryan Avenue in Fort Worth, Texas. And once a month we meet up and I have a back to the basics where I go over the basics of blockchain technology and how it works. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I seen your podcast, on and I was like, this would be a great place for me to kind of help out and tell people the story of the addiction and how you can go from uh, being in prison and them offering you 45 years to life, which was a real number that came at me. They came at me with life in prison for a dangerous drug.
But they came at me with a big
To
sentence, but I had a good
yeah,
lawyer, so I got lucky.
yeah. So you literally go from that to be successful, own your home, have a wife and baby, um, have custody of your kids. That was a great thing for me. Um, and then, start and run a business, whether it be podcast, educational, things like that. So, I mean, if you're still stuck in your addiction, remember, just stop. It's that simple. It's a choice. Your addiction is a choice.
Hmm?
It's a choice. That's all it is. You choose. And if you worked as hard to get those drugs that you want to go get, if you work that hard on getting a job and doing things right, you'd be successful and you wouldn't be high.
That's what my mom used to say to me when I was younger, and like in addiction and being all like, a little Miss Know-it-all. She was like, if you put as much effort as you put into, you know, doing things the wrong way, if you just put the effort
Mm-hmm.
into doing things the right way, you would be so successful. And
Yeah,
I just laughed in her face, like, yeah, okay,
it's true.
but
It's
I
true.
like, I was only like 17, so I mean, I was just like, I don't know, fuck you, right? But
Yeah,
before I
yeah.
let you go, what is the name of your podcast?
So the my name of the podcast is called Blue Collar Crypto. You can find my website at bluecollarcrypto.io. It has all of the Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Omniflex, all of those links in it. You can follow me on X, which is Twitter, Blue Collar Crypto, or BCC Learn, or Blue BC Crypto Learn, and of course on Facebook and stuff like that. I'll send you over all the links and stuff if you want to put it in the show notes.
I definitely will because you know why I asked you what the name was is because my husband is very interested in all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So I wanted to know the name so I could tell him so
yeah,
that he could watch it.
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. So it's called Blue Collar Crypto. It's crypto for the working class.
Perfect. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you sharing so much because I know that a lot of people don't always want to talk about these kinds of things. So I very much appreciate you coming on and sharing. And yeah, I will put everything in my show notes. So thank you for joining me tonight. And
Yeah.
I hope, you know what, I probably will end up checking in with you later on down the line. So it's not goodbye, it's I'll talk to you in a little bit. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
I work all night, I work all day to pay the bills I have.